Last election, it was all the gender stuff, the insistence that men can have babies and such. And now I fear that we like the terrorists is the new that. Liberals need to push back on the dumb ideas that come from their children. The Democrats' problem is the energy of the parties with the young and the young are with the terrorists. That's not good.
Bill Maher just torched Bernie Sanders' fantasy of ever becoming president, and it was glorious. As 2028 nears, Sanders' name keeps floating around as a potential Democratic frontrunner.
So talk to your children and remind them you don't really want to live like your heroes in Hamas. All the shit you do all day, it was all made in America. Your smartphone, your Grubhub, your freedom to bitch about America, that's all American stuff. You tell your phone you want a milkshake and a guy brings it to your house. Please, you couldn't survive a week living in intifada.
But Maher isn't having any of it. He blasted Bernie as too woke, too radical, and dripping with hypocrisy. On a recent HBO episode, Maher didn't hold back, listing off brutal reasons why a Bernie ticket is dead on arrival. So if you're into no-holds-barred political takedowns, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in. Now, we're gonna get into the student loan debt forgiveness mess in just a bit, but first, pay attention to Bill Maher's reaction when Bernie Sanders tried to play the semantics game. Maher said the government was going to give away money to people who owed student loans. Sanders jumped in to correct him, saying the government was simply going to forgive the debtors. Same thing, same outcome, just a prettier word. And that's exactly Maher's issue with the left, constantly obsessing over language instead of dealing with the actual problem. Anyway, let's keep the clip rolling.
This is a survey student loan forgiveness recipients. 73% of applicants say they are likely to spend their extra money on non-essential, including vacations, smartphone, drugs, and alcohol. They admitted that to the pollster.
Who is this pollster?
NBC News. 52% they are very likely to buy new clothing. 46% they would use the money for vacation and eat out at restaurants. This is why people have a thing about, I would never call it free money. Oh, I guess I just did, but.
Well, let me respond to that in two ways, Bill. You're talking about giveaways. Under Trump, the Congress voted for $1 trillion in tax breaks for the richest people in this country and the largest corporations. That's a giveaway. We just increased military spending with very little discussion, I don't know if you know this, by $80 billion. Military industrial complex.
Including the Democrats.
Pardon me?
The Democrats vote for it too?
Yes, absolutely correct.
You could clearly see Bill Maher's impatience growing as the interview wore on. The question was simple. When people are handed free money, they often spend it on their deepest carnal desires instead of their actual needs. Maher wanted Sanders' honest take, especially since he's the guy crusading against capitalism and preaching socialism. But instead of answering, what did Sanders do? He pulled a page straight out of the woke playbook and dragged Trump into the conversation. It's become the left's favorite deflection tactic. Whenever they're cornered, whenever their arguments start crumbling.
AOC Bernie Sanders rally in Idaho last month, someone threw a Palestinian flag over an American flag, and the crowd erupted in approval. What should have happened after that is one of the adults on stage should have told their young, loyal followers, this is not a symbol of freedom. This is.
Aside from nitpicking over semantics, Bernie Sanders, clearly eyeing another shot at the presidency, seems all too willing to embrace whatever woke argument is trending. His silence on certain issues speaks volumes. Take the moment when the Palestinian flag was draped over the American flag. Sanders said nothing, not a word. And this from a man who's been in politics for decades, who should know exactly what the Palestinian regime stand for. A long history of corruption, human rights abuses, and a blatant disregard for innocent lives. Yet Sanders acts as though Hamas is the victim and America is the villain. It's the kind of moral confusion that's become a hallmark of the far left. And whether it's to appease a radical base or pander for votes, Sanders' refusal to condemn these symbolic slaps in the face to America is as disappointing as it is dangerous. Leadership requires clarity, not cowardice dressed up as compassion. Their go-to move is to shout Trump, as if that magically absolves them of answering tough questions. It's tired, it's lazy, and Maher wasn't buying it. You could almost hear him thinking, can we have a grown-up conversation without invoking the boogeyman every 5 minutes?
That's socialism, the military. That's crony socialism.
Well, that's
right.
crony capitalism.
But the military isn't capitalism. That's the government.
No, but it's who owns the military-industrial complexes. All right, but anyhow.
Right.
All right. So when you talk about giveaways, you have major corporations in this country that make billions in profit, don't pay a nickel in taxes. Billionaires have an effective tax rate lower than that of a truck driver or a nurse. You have a generation, you talk about this younger generation right now. I got around the country and I talked to a lot of people. You know, I don't know anything about that poll, but I can tell you, I've talked to nurses who are working their asses off, doing the right thing. They leave school $70,000 in that. They can't afford now to get married and have children. They can't afford the housing that they desperately need. So the truth is, you got a generation that, everything being equal, the younger generation will have a lower standard of living than their parents.
He continued his verbal evisceration of the so-called thought leaders steering the Democratic Party, with Bernie Sanders right at the heart of it. He warned that if Sanders and his ideological circle don't radically shift course, the Democratic Party is barreling toward political extinction. And he's not wrong. It's easy to get trapped in the illusion that everyone agrees with you when you're surrounded by a small, insulated echo chamber. But outside that bubble, voters are tuning out. That's exactly what doomed Kamala Harris in the last election, misreading the national mood, confusing Twitter applause with public support. Maher fears the party is setting itself up for a repeat disaster, and if they don't wake up soon, they're not just going to lose elections, they're going to lose relevance. The American people want solutions, not slogans. Another major problem Bill Maher has identified with Sanders and the far left is political blindness, the stubborn inability to recognize their own flaws and course correct before disaster strikes. It's a dangerous mix of arrogance and delusion. Take the AOC Bernie Sanders ticket that's being whispered about. On paper, it looks like a strategic dream. Young Latina representing minorities and Gen Z, paired with an older white male representing experience and the older voter bloc. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's because we've seen this exact formula before. The Democrats tried it with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And how did that turn out? An unenthusiastic base, a fractured message, and a campaign that limped rather than soared. The left keeps recycling old ideas, repackaging them with new faces, but failing to grasp the deeper issue. Optics alone won't win elections. Voters want authenticity, clarity, and leadership, not forced diversity checkboxes disguised as strategy. One person who wants clarity and accountability is Joe Rogan. Check this out.
Was the poll incorrect?
Yeah, the poll was wrong. So what?
What about the conversation that they had with Kamala Harris, where they edited the answers that she had?
60 Minutes has a sterling reputation for investigative journalism.
That's not investigative journalism if you change someone's answers. If you ask her a question and she comes with a rambling answer that doesn't make sense and you edit that out.
Suing media has the impact of intimidating media.
No, but it's not that. It's deceptive editing.
I don't know.
You give people a different perception of who this candidate is than reality. But that's not objective journalism.
I know.
Would you agree with that?
I don't know that I agree with your analysis of it.
I think that's universally accepted that that's what they did.
Then the impact is clearly intimidation. He wants to defund public broadcasting. Why is that? Because they also would run critical stories of him.
They say things that are defamatory and factually incorrect. What other course does a person have other than a lawsuit?
I don't think that it is appropriate to be intimidating media.
The party risks repeating the same mistakes that led to past electoral failures. Maher's message is clear. Unless the left wakes up and faces reality, they won't just lose elections, they'll lose the country. The time for delusion is over. And this brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, then hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.